So as we move into this new political season, and as the narrative that Trump is Hitler has failed, and as the narrative that Trump is crazy is starting to fail, it's going to be Trump is mean. Trump is mean. Trump's policies are mean. They're not the best thing for America. And of course, this one is easy because what you're doing is you're finding, we all have this idea that these are little tiny children who were brought in, cradled in their lovely mother's arms, and now we have to be protected from deportation. And the thing is, what the press wants to do is they want to make everything a story, and then they only want to tell you one kind of story. So just look at this. This is Alison Camerata on CNN. I mean, this is absurd. Asking the really tough questions of a guy who says, a young man who says he's a dreamer.
Angel, you've called the possibility of this terrifying. What do you mean?
I think it's terrifying that we can be so easily betrayed by the government asking us to give so much information that we had to give to be accepted into DACA, and then to have it turned around on a very exceptional group of people.
I want to ask you about that, because when you heard the idea that there was going to be this DACA program and that dreamers like you brought here at 4 years old were going to be protected, did you have second thoughts about giving your information to the government?
Yeah, there was a very significant discussion that my parents had to have with me at that time. I was 17 at the time, and that was kind of the first big conversation that I had to have with my parents about my legal residency here, my residency status, and it was a risk.
So seems like a nice young fellow, right? And I'm sure there are plenty of these guys who are nice young fellows, and plenty who are bad. So do we tell this story? I mean, you can just bet. I love the tough questions he answers. You're terrified. What do you mean by terror? Why are you terrified? Why is Trump so mean? Why is Trump being so mean to you? I mean, they're always asking the tough questions. So this is the thing. You are supposed to think that this is a story about narratives. And of course, this is the narrative they leave out. Here is a father testifying before Congress that a dreamer killed his son.
My name is Jamil Shaw. My son, Jamil Andre Shaw II, was murdered by a dreamer, DACA recipient, a child brought to this country by no fault of his own. My family's peace and freedom were stolen by an illegal alien from Mexico. He was brought here by his illegal alien parents and allowed to grow up as a wild animal. Some people believe that if you are brought over by no fault of your own, that it makes you a good person. They want us to believe that DREAM Act kids don't murder. I am here to debunk that myth. Kids brought over the border by no fault of their own do kill Americans. How many Americans killed by illegal aliens are too many? 1, 2, 100, 1,000, 100,000? Ask any parent whose child was murdered by an illegal alien, how many is too many?
Well, that's right. Because why? Because then when your kid is killed, God forbid, then suddenly that's the narrative. That becomes the narrative. But my question is this, why is this an issue of narratives? We all know that people are pretty much the same all over. Culture affects them. But basically, if they come to a new culture and they can acclimate to that culture, they'll become like that culture. We know we've been doing this for 100 years, assimilating people from all over the world. We can assimilate people from Mexico. We can assimilate people from other countries. That's not the problem. They're going to be bad ones. They're going to be good ones. Maybe the fact that they're breaking the law coming into the country militates, tilts the balance toward bad people, maybe, because it's self-selecting for people who are willing to break the law. But that's not the issue. That is not the issue. This is not a question of narratives. And this is why the Republicans are always swimming upstream, and why you get scurvy. Like John McCain is picking on Trump for this, and Paul Ryan. I used to be a fan of Paul Ryan's because of his attempt to reform the entitlement programs, but he is really bobbling the Trump administration. He doesn't know which way to turn. All of these guys were making noise about how that Obama was violating the rule of law. Here is why I think, and I will say, I think Trump is 100% right in what he's doing. I think he's right to end DACA. It's unconstitutional. It makes, I think any challenge to it aside from the corruption of certain leftist judges, any challenge to it, if it gets to the Supreme Court, it's going to be cut down. It is going to be cut down. There are people saying they're going to sue, like Andrew Cuomo in New York, saying we're going to sue him. Sue over what? Sue that he stopped something that was illegal, and he has given Congress 6 months. And so people are saying, well, that's throwing the responsibility back to Congress, where they make the laws. That is what this story is about. The absolute abandonment by Barack Obama and the left of the rule of law has caught people in the middle of this. I know people are going to suffer. I know good people are going to suffer. But somewhere along the line, if somebody doesn't bite the bullet and bring back the rule of law, there's going to be a lot more suffering. Trump is right. He's casting this back. He's putting the onus for this back into Congress. And everybody is sort of saying, well, why did he do that? Why didn't he fix it? He can't fix it. He's just the president. He's got to give it to the people who should have done something about it before. Actually, they did do something about it before. They refused to give people amnesty. Let's see if they do that again. And if he is pushing this so that, there was one story that he turned to people and said, get me out of this, because Trump promised he was going to get rid of this thing. But if they say, well, now we've got to do something about this, and they pass a law that says maybe let people who are already here stay, but nobody else or whatever, at least it's being done constitutionally. The rule of law is the thing that is at issue, and all these stories about this dreamer is a murderer and this dreamer is a lovely victim of circumstance, they don't mean anything. I mean, it's not that I want to harden my heart against people. It's that there's going to be stories on both sides. It's not about the stories. It's about passing laws that we can obey, that we can abide by. And right now that has been entirely abandoned.